Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello everyone, let me introduce myself. My name is Rahelia Parwati, student ID number 234111051. I'll be presenting today's learning material. Let's start with the first slide. In this slide, I will first explain the meaning of cognitive bias in accounting decisions. Cognitive bias is a tendency toward less than rational thinking that can influence how a person assesses information and makes decisions. This bias usually occurs unconsciously due to the way the human mind processes information quickly. In practice, humans often use shortcuts in thinking called heuristics to simplify decision-making. While this method can help someone make decisions more quickly, it can also lead to misjudgments or biases. In accounting, cognitive bias can arise when accountants, managers, or decision-makers interpret financial data based on personal experiences, perceptions, or specific beliefs. However, accounting decisions should be based on objective analysis and facts. For example, when a manager strongly believes that his company will experience increased profits in the future, he may tend to interpret financial data more optimistically than is actually the case. This can lead to less accurate decisions. Therefore, understanding cognitive bias is crucial in behavioral accounting. By understanding the existence of these biases, individuals can be more careful in assessing information and can reduce the possibility of errors in decision-making. This slide will explain several types of cognitive biases that frequently arise in decision-making, particularly in accounting. These biases can influence how individuals assess information and ultimately impact the decisions they make. The first type of bias is overconfidence bias. This bias occurs when an individual has an overly high level of confidence in their own abilities or judgment. In this situation, the individual feels that their decision is guaranteed to be correct, thus failing to consider the possibility of error or potential risks. In the accounting context, this can occur when a manager is overconfident in a financial forecast made without thoroughly considering risk factors. The next type of bias is anchoring bias. This bias occurs when an individual relies too heavily on initial information received when making a decision. This initial information becomes the primary reference in assessing a situation, even though other, more relevant information is available. In accounting, for example, when an initial budget estimate is used as the primary benchmark, it becomes difficult for the decision-maker to adjust the figures even after conditions have changed. Next is confirmation bias, which is the tendency to seek out and pay attention to information that supports one's own beliefs, while ignoring information that contradicts them. This slide will discuss the impact of cognitive biases on accounting decision-making. Cognitive biases can influence various important decisions within an organization, particularly those related to financial planning and resource management. One potential impact is errors in budget estimates or financial projections. If decision-makers are overly optimistic or overly pessimistic due to biases, their estimates can be unrealistic. This can impact the company's future financial planning. Furthermore, cognitive biases can also influence a company's performance evaluation process. For example, a manager with a close relationship with a particular team member may unconsciously provide a more favorable assessment than would be objective. Another impact is errors in investment or spending decisions. If decisions are based on biased perceptions or incomplete information, the company is likely to make unfavorable decisions. To mitigate the impact of cognitive biases, organizations need to implement several strategies. One is the use of more systematic, fact-based data and analysis. Furthermore, collective team discussion and evaluation of decisions can also help provide a broader perspective, leading to more objective decisions. By being aware of cognitive biases, organizations can improve the quality of decision-making and minimize the risk of errors in financial management. In conclusion, cognitive bias is a psychological factor that can influence the decision-making process in accounting. Although accounting is often perceived as a field based on numbers and rational analysis, decisions are still influenced by the thinking and perceptions of the individuals involved. Various types of bias, such as overconfidence bias, anchoring bias, confirmation bias, and availability bias, can cause individuals to assess information less objectively. If these biases are not recognized, decisions can potentially lead to errors in planning, evaluation, and company financial management. Therefore, it is crucial for accountants, managers, and decision-makers to understand the presence of cognitive bias in their thinking processes. By increasing awareness of bias and using a more objective and data-driven approach, the quality of decision-making within an organization can be improved. Therefore, understanding cognitive bias is not only important from a behavioral accounting theory perspective but also highly beneficial in practice, helping organizations make more informed and effective decisions.